Ready, action. All right. Wait till I get that clapper board, bro. Anyway, so this is what we're talking about today. I think there should be famous people, but we need to learn how delusional fame works. And should these people be famous? There's three things going on right there, if you were following. So I think there should be famous people. So we got number one. I think there should be famous people. Number two, we need to learn how delusional fame works. That's number two. Number two is that's a question that I understand a little bit more. The first question was like, I think there should be, I think that there should be famous people. That's like pretty broad. It's not really explaining anything. But then when you get to the second part of that thing, it's we need to learn how delusional fame works. So delusional fame, not many people know that that's real, know that that's a thing. We call it delusions for a reason because we believe that it's not possible. Like it's basically linked to a mental illness. There's grandiose delusions and delusions of grandeur. So it's a delusion that is not real and cannot possibly be real. And should those people be famous? So we need to learn about delusional fame, and then we need to ask ourselves the question of should those people be famous? Like, what can we learn from them? Because here we go. I'm going to go get into it. Because we have famous people, but they've been artificially created. We have artists, we have sports stars, we have porn stars, we have all these different people that have we've made them famous. But the question that I'm asking is, are they real type of famous people? So I call it artificially created. Like, these people don't believe that they're famous. They're just going about their days as if they're regular. They're not thinking outside the box. They are stuck in this, well, I'm just a regular person type of setting. So, like, who thought of fame? How did they get to that conclusion? If you have that question, you think back to the beginning of time, before the earth, because humans aren't from earth. Where do you learn? I think I messed up on that last part. Where do you learn? That doesn't really make sense. So let me explain a little bit. So when I say you have to think back to the beginning of time, I'm thinking past Earth time, because I was watching this one video and they were explaining how humans, were planted here. We don't know how, we don't know who did it, but we kind of know how. It was from space. So it must have been some type of spacecraft. They must have, they're using asteroids as ways to disseminate different planets. We are not from Earth. So I'm going with that idea that our past, our lineage, goes way further than that. Because if you look at evolution wise, our evolution doesn't really make sense. Like, we started somewhere, and what we started as humans, and then we just continue from there. Or how did that work? Because we have evolution in front of us. So we have dinosaurs. What did dinosaurs become? Oh, they became chickens and crocodiles. So it took millions and millions of years for that to happen. So how did we get to human beings? Because we have apes. That's where we believe we come from. But it doesn't really explain anything, because from an ape to a human, that takes more than a billion years. You know what I mean? I forgot how many billion years we have been on this earth. So I'm thinking, like, who thought of fame? Where did it come from? You know what I mean? How did they get to that conclusion? How did they get to that point where they're like, oh, I know what a famous person is. Let's make this person famous. Let's start putting money towards them. And we're thinking, like, well, if you're talking about back centuries ago, fame was, it wasn't that a person just became famous because a lot of people thought that they should be famous. They earned it somehow. So how did you earn fame? where did it come from? Like the source. Come on, it doesn't really make sense. So from the source. So where's the source? The source, I believe, it's from sick people, more specifically schizophrenics. Now, that's where I had to do a little more research. I asked Google, I was like, what mental illness can lead a person to think that they are famous? It's called a grandiose delusion or delusions of grandeur. If you go to a psychiatrist and you're like, I believe I'm famous, and they're like, no, you're not. And it's like, no, I believe I am. And then you had a series of episodes or something like that happening up to them figuring that out. They're like, okay, we believe that you have a mental illness, and this is why you believe you're famous. So it's schizophrenia, top of the list, represent. Okay, there's bipolar disorder, delusion disorder, grandiose type. So the grandiose is one that cannot possibly be true. There's bizarre and then there's non-bizarre delusions. So they think that it is bizarre. There's narcissistic personality disorder, and I've seen it. You know what I mean? Like when you see a person that is narcissistic, you can see that they're like, yo, bro, I'm fucking great. Like nothing is better than me. And then you're just like, that's how a famous person thinks. But you're not famous. So stop acting like you're famous. But what if these people are? Okay. So we have substance use disorders. I've heard about substance use disorder. It's my friend, this guy that I know from a very long time ago. Like we haven't really talked, but we talked recently. And he was telling me, I was like, how did you get schizophrenia? And he was like, abuse of opioids. So there's substance use disorders. There's dementia and delirium. So dementia is when you're really old, and then all of a sudden you start believing that you're famous. So we say that they are sick and that it's a delusion, but it's real. When I say that it's real, meaning that it had to be real enough for them to be like, oh, you have this problem. This is the type of problem that you have. It's like saying that cars can run forever, right? And then they're like, no, it doesn't really run forever because it has a motor and motor parts wear out. And when they wear out, they can't run for that long. And after a period of time, they completely break down because it eventually rusts. And then you can't drive it anymore because it's undrivable. So I don't know where I was going with that one. I'm going to say that was a little out there. Uh, I forgot how I connected that. But it's real, meaning that you might not be able to use this car for a very long time, but you can use it for a time being. So maybe it won't last for 100 years, but it will last for about 20 years. So it's real enough for it to be like, okay, I could use this transportation for 20 years, but it's not an 100-year-old thing that you can drive around. So that's why I was saying, like, it's very possible. And if you look around, you're like, all right, you live on Earth. Earth people have this special thing that they do is where they give praise to like one person, and that person is then called famous. They're not called God, or they're not called something else. You know what I mean? They are just a person that everybody has what we call is respect. We respect that person, so we treat them a little bit differently. So fame is real, but because, how can I put this? Fame is real, right? But because they are not famous in the literal sense, if they're not famous the way that we have thought of fame, because fame is like, oh, you have a special talent. What is your talent? That's what fame is. You know, you have to have some type of talent. It doesn't matter what type of talent you have. Like I said, you could be a porn star. You can be an artist, you can be a businessman, you can be a technician. Your skill makes you famous. So that's why if you're piecing this together, that's why I'm asking, like, so why can't we call these specific people famous? Because they have something that really tells them that, oh yes, I'm famous. Like, I can't really explain it, but it happened one day. So that's why I'm talking about, like, there's natural and then there's artificial. There's natural fame out there. I believe that those are the gold mines. You know what I mean? Like, that's where we should be looking. But people have turned away from it because they're like, oh, they're just delusional. They're sick. They can't really do anything. And if we possibly give them fame, if we allowed that delusion to continue, it could be harmful to the person themselves. So we just leave them alone. We don't really mess with them. So so what I wanted to point out was, like, the substance use disorder. So if we started going around making people famous and we're like, all right, this dude has substance abuse, and then they have to come forward and be like, listen, I had an episode and I believe that I'm famous. And everybody's just like, okay, okay. They are going to be like, how can we feed into that? Because now we're teaching people that if you abuse opioids, let's say, if you start abusing opioids and you become famous, we have to treat you like you're famous. So, like, there's that problem. So I completely understand that problem, but it happens naturally. You know what I mean? Like, it's like the war on drugs. You know how, congratulations to the war on drugs you have won. Because even if you start making it illegal, what it does is that it just becomes more dangerous. So you have to actually work with it. So you have people that are making weed illegal, and weed is the biggest thing that we're talking about right now. Weed is illegal. What could we have done better with weed? And it turns out we should have started selling it a proper way. And now we have problems with people having minor cases of psychosis. So now we have to figure out how to beat psychosis. And psychosis has been a problem in our society since way back when. Way back when. So if we actually took this drug and we started studying it first instead of fighting against it, would we be closer to better medication for people that have psychosis? See, that's the questions that come up. And weed is a natural occurring thing in our ecosystem, in a human ecosystem. I should say human ecosystem, because if they were to grow wildly, they're mild. They don't have as much THC. You're looking at like 20% THC at max. Let's just say that it's 20%. Right now, we're up to concentrates are 99%. Flowers is, I've seen like 27%. We could probably look that up. What is the potency of weed today? Flowers. Because I want flowers specifically. We're going to look at this up. So the average potency is about 16%. THC levels exceeding 20%, and some strains reaching 30% or more. So there's A, double A, triple A. And once you start getting to like triple A, that's when you start seeing like levels of 30%, levels of 20%. It's very expensive. They take care of those babies like they are gods, bro. I'm telling you. But let's go back to the skit so we don't get too far off of what we're talking about. So what the last thing we said was we say that there are sick and that it's a delusion, but it's real. So we explain how, yes, they might be sick, but it's a very real thing. It's a very real experience for that person. It doesn't ever really go away from them. It sticks with them. I'm talking about personal experience. You know what I mean? So that is why I believe we learned about fame. That is why I believe we learned about fame. We got it from somewhere. Where did we get it from? Where did this idea originate from? And if we see it naturally occurring, isn't that where it came from? You know what I mean? Like, how do we differentiate from different drugs? It's like if one is made in the lab versus one is made out in on Earth. Look at what we've made legal and what we've made illegal. So I know what you're going to point out. You're going to be like, well, what about heroin? You know, regardless, heroin comes from a poppy plant. And even though it comes from that poppy plant, we don't make it legal. So what about that? Very true. Very true. I think that we're going to learn a lot from opium and poppy plants and heroin and stuff like that. There's a lot to learn. We're just not at that level yet, unfortunately. But we're at the level where we can deal with cannabis, for example. So we've made it legal. You're talking about man-made like medications. I think that we should differentiate those two because there's medication and there's drugs and then there's recreational drugs. And, you know, I think that those should be separated. Medication is one thing. It's a proven thing that works, but there's a lot of problems with them. People complain about them all the time. And personally, what I see is that what they say is that it elongates life. It elongates life, right? But it doesn't make life quality better. I know that's a little bit that goes against what they say about it, that it makes the quality of life a little better, but I do not think so. All I think is that they're dragging this dead body that wants to be dead, and they're dragging it for as long as possible until it finally goes kaput. Because doctors, we talk about this in my family, doctors prioritize money instead of a person's life. So they will elongate a person's life that shouldn't be elongated. You know, they should pass on. You know, there's too many problems, and they're not a car, but doctors see people as cars, and that's the problem right there. They feel like they can keep somebody alive and that they look good for it, but that's not the case. So then I ended this with a question. So you believe that there is real fame and fake or artificial fame? So I think so. You know, like I said in this whole thing, where does it come from? And when you find out where it comes from, then you see the difference between natural and artificial, because you're like, okay, this person believes that he is famous. He has a specific disease. He has schizophrenia. So what should we do? Oh, just tell him that he's not famous and we'll put him on medication and that will eventually go away. But for me, did it ever really go away? It's not as strong as it was before. When I first got into psychosis, it was very strong. It was so real, and I experienced it. So to this point where it's just like, well, now I'm working towards it. Like now I'm just like, you know what? I might as well work towards this thing. Might as well see what it's about and really try to capitalize on it, because now it's become like a dream. That's how real it became. So now I'm just not like going through the motions. Now I'm just like, yo, how do I become famous? Like, who wants to help me out? Like, who else wants to do this with me? So I'm gonna reach out to TJ. I'm gonna reach out to Trey. Eventually, they haven't answered my message, and I'm a little butthurt about that. But I know that what they've experienced with me was not 100% cool, because at the time that we were hanging out, that's when I started doing a whole bunch of, not a whole bunch, I'm exaggerating. That's when I started experimenting a little bit more with different substances, and they saw a bad part of it. You know what I mean? So who knows if they want to talk to me? So I don't freaking know. But hopefully I haven't done anything that made them too butthurt, because I was just simply living life. That's all I was doing. I'm gonna make a shorter video, a video of me just like reading through this. Now that I've read through it, I feel like I can read it a little bit better, because I'm terrible at reading, I'm terrible at acting, and acting goes hand in hand with reading. So if you read well and you can memorize a lot, your acting is just going to be that much better. But oh yeah, I didn't even touch upon this. Do I think that those people should be famous? I think that that should be a new category that we need to be focusing on. It kind of already has happened if you think about it. Because what happens when a person has schizophrenia? Then they're given about a 2-year period to get back on track. And if they can't get back on track after 2 years, what they do is they label you as disabled. And when you're disabled, you get paid for your disability. And it depends on how long you've worked. It depends on how long your parents have worked, how much they made. That all factors into how much they will give you monthly. Now, they can give you a really low monthly pay. I've heard $500. The highest that I've experienced or known is the highest that I have is $1,100. So can I live with that? I'm much more comfortable than $500, definitely. And I have a great support system. I don't really have to worry about my housing or anything. So that's why I could just focus on this craft and really just focus, really just focus. So yeah. I mean, that's basically it. I'm going to make a shorter video, and it's just going to explain literally. I'm just going to read what I said, and this is going to be like the extended version of that video. I don't know what it's going to be called, but I'm going to get that class.